Starting in quarantine without an end in sight, we're bringing to you advice and questionable commentary from one teenager to another. This is Chelsea with Armbridge, a podcast. We hope to be informative of the everyday world around us. Last week, or well, whenever it came out, we celebrated the end of season 1 with episode 20, which is super exciting, and also not very exciting because we sort of overshared in more ways than one. Do I regret it? Yeah, of course I do. And now I'm sort of channeling all of my energy into investing my time in the things I'm going to be talking about today. I'm filming this before episode 21 comes out because there are just so many things on my mind, and I feel like I have to get them out before I forget. And the two main things I'm gonna kind of focus on are Snapchat, or social media, and philosophy. These things aren't related at all. They're just sort of living in my head, rent-free, as I like to say. Anyway, I guess to start off, I started university on the 10th, September 10th, so it's been roughly about a week, and I've come to realize that being self-directed is very difficult. I have no motivation to do anything at all. The only things I care about school-wise are my philosophy readings and my looming econ quiz, which is not until October. And a lot of the things I'm learning in econ anyway are sort of a rehash of what I did in high school, so thankfully I'm kind of there. But then again, I chickened out of taking the microeconomics. I took the microeconomics AP, and then I was like, oh, I definitely failed that. So I rescinded my score because I don't want to see what that would have been. But now I have to live with the fact that my teacher has my responses to that AP, and honestly, it was on me for just not really trying super hard with it, but whatever. Anyway, in order to get myself to be more productive, I've tried to set limits on how much social media I use, because I think I would just go on it for aimless reasons and it would be a bottomless pit that just sucked out my time, and I didn't really want to do that again. So first I started with Instagram, which is the thing I use the most. If you go to the menu, there is a place where you can set a timer for how long you're on the app, and I set it to a certain time, and I've actually been under it for the past few weeks, and I think it's really great that I've been using it less. And I also, Sonica sent me this video by a YouTuber named Nicole Raffi, if I'm not mistaken, and she made this really great video about how she unfollowed a bunch of people on Instagram and how it cleansed her feed, and she was able to follow more people and more, I guess, activities that she actually liked. Oh, there's my knee again, my creaky chair. But yeah, I thought, you know what, I think I should do that too. And I started going through the people I was following, and I actually realized that a lot of them, or not a lot, but quite a few weren't following me back. But this whole time, the past 1 or 2 years that I've been following these people, they unfollowed me. And I sort of felt like some of them were people I knew in middle school too, and it was sort of a blow to my to my pride and stuff. But I started thinking about it, and I was like, I haven't contacted these people since middle school. I followed them because we went to the same middle school. We never interacted after that, and we're all in a place where we're grown past that, and the people that we've made friends with, that we've kept from that time, those people have been established. All of these dynamics have been established, and I didn't feel so bad. I unfollowed them, and there were people that I just didn't know that I followed because we had mutuals. I unfollowed them, and I started following some more stationery and cat and dog accounts, and it's been so much better. But yeah, and that was my Instagram cleanse. I think, you know how Instagram does that thing where if you do something too many times, it'll block you from that action. I wasn't able to access my following list for probably a day or two because I was just going through and unfollowing a lot of accounts. But yeah, again, that was my Instagram cleanse. It was great. I definitely recommend you do it if you feel like you're in a emotionally mature sort of mindset. Because I think I kept following a lot of people because it was like nostalgic, and the initial feeling that I felt when I knew that we weren't mutually following each other was like just kind of sad because I don't know, middle school was actually pretty good for me. I had a lot of fun and I met some of my closest friends there. So it was sort of upsetting, but I think if you're ready to sort of move on in that point in your life, especially because I'm technically in college, but I'm not at my college. Yeah, if you feel ready to do that, I think it's definitely a good thing for you to try. Because I just don't really feel the same satisfaction I did when I was younger, when I passed like 100 followers, 200 followers, 300 followers. It's not as gratifying as I used to think it was. And now I have like the satisfaction of knowing that I'm following and people are following me based on like this mutual, okay, I don't mind seeing your photos, I don't mind you seeing my photos, so on and so on. And yeah, it's been great. I feel like it was like an out of body experience, like wow. I feel so much better. And yeah. And okay, after that, I still haven't done it. About like a few weeks ago, I was planning to delete my Snapchat account because I don't use it. I'm going to, I don't know if this is an unpopular opinion, but I absolutely hate Snapchat. Okay? The app updated at some point and I didn't know, and I deleted the app, but not my account. And then I re-downloaded it. As I've mentioned, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but the only reason I keep Snapchat is because there's like one group chat with my friends in there, and we reply to each other or talk in the chat once or a few times every year. So on the rare occasion that like someone would say anything, I just like kept the app and deleted it and reopened it again. It was really just a whole mess. But okay, anyway, right? The reasons why I don't like Snapchat, okay? Number one, the color. Okay? Why is it such a jarring yellow? I remember I would like, sort of scroll through the discover section of Snapchat like at night, and my phone would be on the lowest brightness and I have like the blue light filter and there's just blah, it's just like yellow, It's so annoying. I kind of wish, there's golden yellow, okay? There's pastel yellow, okay? Why would you use the most undesirable yellow aside from maybe highlighter yellow? It blows my mind. It just blows my mind. It's the worst. And number two is the new update, because before you could swipe right to access the chats, right? But now you have to tap it. And I forget that every time I log in and like check their group chat or whatever, I always swipe to the right and then I'm taken to the snap map. And number three, I'm just gonna add this in. I just thought about this now, but the snap, I don't even know if it's called a snap map, but it's like that thing where you can, if someone has their location on, you can track them. Who authorized that? Who said, okay, yeah, that's... I mean, obviously it's like that person's choice to have their phone location on. Like, maybe you're somewhere and you want to take a picture and put the location in, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you have to use Google Maps or something, right? But it's still so invasive. It's just so invasive. But yeah, I thought of deleting it. I haven't yet. I don't know why. I think it's still out of the nostalgia for this group chat, but I feel bad like asking, oh, can we just like move the group chat to like a different app or something? Because it's just been there and it's sort of sentimental, so it's still there. And oh my god, I forgot. I was like thinking about what to say for this episode, and I had a number 4. But I was thrown off by the snap map. I don't even know if it's called the snap map. I'm just gonna call it that whenever I bring it up from now on. But number 4 is the ads in the Discover stories. when I'm watching like a video, I watch this story about, I think it's called Born Different. It's about people who have disabilities and how they like get around in their daily lives, and I just find it like so inspiring. And the people that are featured on the show are always so nice and positive, so I like watching it as a source of inspiration. And whenever they had a new episode, I would watch it like every day after school. So you're in the middle of watching this very emotional moment with someone. They're like describing their day, they're describing like this one thing that they overcame, and then in the middle of it there's like a 5-second ad for I don't know what, right? And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I understand that this app needs to generate a profit somehow, right? But on YouTube, okay, in comparison, if I'm watching like a 5-minute, 7-minute video, which would probably be the same length as a Born Different story, there's like one ad at the beginning, one ad at the end, maybe one in the middle, but it sort of makes sense, right? Because YouTube is a platform for longer or medium length form content, okay? And it just makes sense. YouTube ads just make sense to be there, as annoying as they are. I sort of understand it, but with Snapchat, the way that it's presented, it's so quick. Like there are so many things, you just tap through and you find everything. So having ads is just, it just makes no sense to me. It's such a stupid complaint, but it makes no sense to me. I get it at the beginning and the end, maybe. But yeah, those are my qualms with social media. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, it's a good way to meet people and to share, shared experiences. Because I think of course, I believe I brought this up before, but the influx of new information about news and current events has been very strong from the people that I've been following. Like, I thought, you know, maybe it would sort of go down a little bit, but I've been learning so many things, I've been saving so many posts, and I've learned to educate myself through the media that I consume rather than engaging with media that might not be as productive. It's taught me in that sense. And whenever I post something about myself, I don't know if this is like really bad or good, but I think it's sort of an improvement. But yeah, again, whenever I post something about myself, I think, okay, let's try to look for, at the same time, a story that I find or that I want to show people, and let's do some productive consumption, right? Of posting about me and then posting about an issue, because I think I found it really hard to keep up with current problems, because I'm also dealing like with my own problems and with my own situation being here at home. And yeah, I've been more aware of how I can use my very small platform to potentially, you know, get someone to say, oh, I didn't know that, or because whenever I post something like news related, I try to think, okay, how did it educate me? Was there something new that I learned from this? How can this help someone else? How does this supplement the information that is going around? Like, or, oh, is this a new perspective? So it's good in that sense, and I'm able to communicate with people from my university. So my university, again, is in Canada, so it's been kind of lonely seeing people go to campus, but at the same time, it gives me a lot of hope that we're all sort of in this shared experience where we all have to deal with we're all dealing with the same problem, and we can all complain about the same problem and sort of provide solace and advice on how we're each tackling said problem, which is, you know, staying at home and having limited mobility outside everywhere. And memes. Alright, memes. The influx of memes. I've spent enough time on social media in the earlier days of quarantine to where the algorithm is basically fit to destroy me. Sometimes I find memes that are just so I'm offended because they're just so accurate to my situation. I can't even like control them anymore. Because at one point I found this ad from Allure, and the tagline of this product was, like a supercharged serum or something that got a higher SAT score than you did, okay? That was so mean. I mean, I might not have worked my hardest on the SAT, but I got what I got and I got into university. That was just so mean. It was so mean. But through the algorithm, I've also sort of become more invested than I used to in YouTuber and TikTok drama. This was so funny. But I found this TikTok, I'll probably put it in the video here. Nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to know. But someone, or I don't know who found it, but Jeffree Star, okay? Jeffree Star has a new boyfriend, like currently. Nobody knew who he was. I don't know who posted this picture of him, but there was a picture of him on his back, or he was like hiding his head, sort of. I don't know what he was doing. But he had like like tattoos on his arm. And there was, you know, like a big basketball, and there were a few other things. And I thought that the tattoo itself, like the tattoos themselves, were not super like specific. I mean, I felt like the designs were generic enough to where, you know, a lot of people could get that tattooed on them. But someone traced the tattoos to a specific person, and they found his Instagram account. And I think he like made it private because someone found him solely using the tattoos on his arm. That was so freaky to me. I don't know how, like, Gen Z people, like us Gen Z kids, when we want to find out something, it's so crazy the skills people have. Like, forensic scientists? Wow. I don't know if we love to see it. That was just, it was just so funny to me because Jeffree Star is, like, really scary to me. You know what I mean? He just has, like, a very angular face, and the fact that he's good at makeup and he knows how to contour the angular parts of his face makes him, like, super formidable. I don't know why. I've always been afraid of him. Not afraid, but if I had sleep paralysis, I would see Jeffree Star in the corner of my bed. Okay? You know, like, when you're awake at night, okay, and you want to get water or something, but it's in the middle of the night. And for me, like, I turn all the lights on in the hallway leading to my kitchen because it's just kind of scary going through the dark. And whenever I close the lights, that's the Filipino in me coming out. When I turn off the lights, I feel like there's something behind me all the time. And if you maybe edited a photo of Jeffree Star to be like transparent and ghost-like, that's what would be behind me. I don't know. I'm so sorry. I mean, I know he's done questionable things, so I don't feel super bad for saying this, but I just had to get that out. I found that incident really funny. But yeah, staying up late is not always good for you. Because, okay, the other night, actually, I had this really... I stayed up late and I started thinking to myself where things came from, right? Where we evolved. I don't remember what I was thinking about because it was like 2 a.m. My thoughts weren't straight at all. I had just finished watching a very impactful episode of, like, Merlin, right? I didn't know what I was doing. And it's all because I've been... Okay, I can't say I'm studying philosophy. I don't want to sound, like, pretentious. But I've been very invested in learning about philosophy because of class, right? The book that I just finished was called The Trial and Death of Socrates. Spoiler alert. There are a few spoilers in here. I don't know, maybe you can skip a little bit if you really don't want to know about the trial and death of Socrates, but I'm gonna talk about it anyway. This was documented by Plato, apparently, which I think is really interesting because Plato seems to not like Socrates. Apparently, apparently he got influence from him. But first of all, in the second book I'm reading, The Republic, Socrates is so pretentious. He's just asking questions left and right without a justification, and then he's like, no, you have to justify it. But he doesn't justify anything. And in the trial of, like, Plato, he literally documents Socrates' downfall. Like, why is he the one doing it? You know, I feel like there's some ancient Greek beef going on here. But to talk about the book, the trial was apparently conducted by, not apparently, it was conducted by the Athenian jury. The ancient Athenian jury was also the judge. So there's no judge, okay? There's just 500 dudes that are randomly elected. I mean, 500 dudes of, like, decent social standing. They're just picked randomly, and they vote using a simple majority on a certain punishment. And anyway, Socrates is in trial, okay? Because someone doesn't like him. His way of thinking is very specific in that he implores people to always question their lives, right? You should always be thinking about why things are the way they are, and that's how you live a morally upstanding life, okay? And he also, among his travels in Athens, he came upon the oracle. I'm sure you guys probably know what the oracle is. It's a sort of vessel for Apollo to help tell the future and whatever. And there was this guy, I guess, that was like, who is the wisest person in all the land? And then the oracle said Socrates. And Socrates was like, oh, no way, I'm not the... I'm really just condensing this to layman's terms, but I think it'll help me sort of review. Yeah, anyway, Socrates was like, yeah, no way, I'm not the oracle. That's capping, whatever. So he tries to disprove the oracle by going around to different people and, you know, figuring out whether or not they are wise. First he goes to politicians, and he realizes that politicians are all talk and nothing else. He then goes to, I don't know if I'm getting the order right, I'm kind of tired and I don't know what I'm saying, but he goes to craftsmen who know very well about their craft, but don't know much about other things. But after talking to and getting to know all these different people, he comes to the conclusion that no one really knows any, like, if you claim to know something, but you know nothing, you are not wise at all. And that applies to a lot of different situations and governments, if you will. But yeah, he's accused essentially of, like, corrupting the youth and not believing in gods. When he does believe in gods, I guess, he has this idea that you have to obey your superior, right? Whether that be gods or men. And his accuser, Miletus, is like, oh yeah, you're, like, corrupting the youth. You're telling them things that are, like, wrong and whatever. And I also don't think that you believe in gods, even though you just stated that you did. And then he kind of roasts Miletus, and he's like, well, would someone who believes in demigods not believe in gods? And Miletus is like, no. Would a flute player not believe in flute-related activities? Or something like that. Again, I think I'm getting the gist of it, but I'm not totally there. And then he says, no. Which, like, totally disproves the point of his accusations. Like, I can't believe that someone would go to trial just because someone doesn't like them. Imagine if our current justice system were like that. We already have a very high prison population. I can only imagine if we had that in place. So, again, I think one of his accusers is like, okay, we're not just gonna punish him, we're gonna kill him. And then everyone in the court is like, Okay, we sentence you to death. He only had like a 30 vote difference between being sentenced to death or not. But yeah, he's sentenced to death. And in the next dialogue called Credo, he's approached by his friend Credo, and Credo wants to help him escape and go to exile. And apparently, it's heavily implied, right, that it wouldn't matter if he left. Like, no one would care that much if he left. And this is actually, I think, the most interesting part for me, because Socrates actually tries to convince Credo that escaping would be a bad idea. And Credo's like, why would you think that's a bad idea? Like, you could literally escape. We have money for you. I have like a bunch of dudes outside that could bust you out right now. And interestingly, Socrates brings up the idea that we also have, as we have a duty to our superiors, we also have a duty to the law. And he's been living in Athens for a really, really long time. He had no disagreements about living in Athens. He was a part of the court for a short time. And he said, well, I'm technically agreeing to their terms by continuing to live here, by continuing to serve the city, by continuing to live my life in this situation, and therefore I have a duty to obey the law, and it is unjust for me to break the law and escape, because this is the justice that has been placed upon me. So he's like, okay, Credo, you have to leave. I'm going to be here. I'm going to die. But this is very ironic, because while watching my lecture, my prof was like, there's a really big contradiction that he makes here. I was like, he makes a contradiction? I forgot to mention, in his trial, he admitted that he assisted in the arrest of this guy named Leon of Salamis. But after they convicted Leon, they were going to bring him, I think, somewhere, and it was like a duty that they had to do as councilmen and whatever, and he didn't join them, which at the time was against the law. So there's this very interesting contradiction, right? Like, why would Socrates say that he believes in the law and that he will obey the law, if not for where it's like interesting, because, you know, where do we put our moral obligations? Do we have, is dissenting against the government the right choice? Because for me, right, I have issues with like our current government, right? I have things that I disagree with, but since they're happening, I've always lived in Texas. I've never left. I was born here, and I've had a good life, and my parents and family have had a good life. But if I disagree with certain procedures put in place in our government, then I am disobeying my duty. It's just this super weird, like, I don't know, sort of like issue. But yeah, I don't agree with Socrates and stuff, but I can't imagine going to trial for such a stupid reason. It's just absolutely just a bonkers reason. And yeah, after reading that, I was like awake and I just couldn't. I was thinking about a lot of things. I was thinking about what was right, what was wrong, what was going on, if you will. I recommend, anyway, if you're like thinking of minoring in anything or looking for something interesting to study for fun, I guess, I don't know. Philosophy is definitely not as, again, I wouldn't say pointless, but it's not as, pointless as I thought it would be. And I guess speaking on that notion, right, like there are a lot of things that like society considers pointless and not helpful towards, you know, the status quo, right? At the time, like philosophy, even before Socrates, right, was considered to be, how do you call this? A very heathen, like, way of thinking. You know, people believed more so in the divine, in things that could more easily explain without human reason. the occurrences going on around them. And I think I've gained like a greater respect for people who take up like very subjective majors, because even though they don't necessarily prompt objective success, right? It's still something that contributed to who we are today, like why we think about ourselves and why we think about the world. It's just a sort of interesting discourse and way to think about life. I don't really know what I just said. I'm recording this impromptu without much preparation, and I sort of regret it. And anyway, I'm sort of reaching a mark where I don't really know what to talk about. And I just finished talking about philosophy, so what better time than to explore some deep questions with friends. And maybe if I find some questions that are relevant enough, I can actually maybe relate them to what I've learned in philosophy so far. Before we get started with the deep questions with friends, the song of the week is going to be like literally anything from Higher Music's Red Tape. I didn't know which one to pick, but I thought that, like, I'm probably going to pick one for Anchor eventually. But there are just so many. I sat down, I watched like as many comebacks as I could at once. I watched, what the heck, Wonho's Open Mind, Taemin's Criminal, all of the Higher Music Red Tape videos, Woo Won Jae's recent comeback, and Blue and Nafla's song Ne Tat. I watched them all at once, and I didn't know what to do. I was just so overwhelmed with emotion, especially with Red Tape, because there were like 5 music videos that I didn't see. So yeah, go stream that. And for Song of the Week, we're going to be putting it on like our Instagram stories instead of like through YouTube, because like the number of copyright issues that we've sort of run into with the songs is a little weird. And of course they'll be on Anchor if you listen through Anchor. So please keep a lookout for those. We'll be trying that. And yeah, let's get into deep questions. Yeah, this podcast is based on like very amateur-y, weird philosophy based on the questions that we ask in this segment, but oh, perfect. Okay. I'm gonna start the deep question segment now using some prompts from conversationstartersworld.com. As you know, we graduated from allocation, and actually I think it's been a hot minute since we did a DQWF, deep questions with friends. So here we go. Number 65 on this list says, "Know thyself is an ancient concept going back much further than Socrates and is at the root of much philosophy. With that in mind, what are the most important things to learn about oneself? Or is all self-knowledge equal?" All right. Oh, yeah. I was gonna say that's deep. No, duh. That's the point of this segment. Okay. I think it's sort of dangerous to assume that you should only learn about the parts of yourself that you want to learn about. Because there were times where I just didn't admit my flaws and my struggles because I thought that would make life easier. But every day in the back of my mind, not acknowledging these things makes me put more pressure on myself. And I'm not really tackling the issue. Especially with like work piling up, I found that I've been able to work once I start. But my weakness is that it's hard for me to start. And because I know that it's hard for me to start work or anything productive, I just push back everything. Like I have in my planner, it's like all scheduled with times and stuff like that, but I had the idea like last night, okay, let's just push it back a day, let's just do it another time. I'll start it eventually. I know I'll start it eventually. No, of course I will, because it's due. There's things due. But in terms of self-knowledge, I would agree that self-knowledge should be equal. Is it equal currently with each person? No. Addressing your flaws is very difficult, and it takes a lot of time before you can finally be at peace with yourself. But I do believe that having equal self-knowledge of both your faults and your strengths can help you become more productive, and facing your feelings is a very important thing, not just like to admit to others, but admitting to yourself your feelings is very important. Okay, oh, ethics and morality questions. Okay, I feel like I'm acting like a big shot because I read like 50 pages of a philosophy reading for class. I'm not. I'm really trying not to. I'm just really excited, I think, about learning this. Because apparently in Ontario high schools, they let you take a class in philosophy? Where is AP philosophy, dude? Where is that? They don't even have APs that widely in Canada either. What the heck? Where? I would much rather learn AP philosophy than, I don't know, US history or something. Okay. Oh, this sort of relates to my very poorly worded recount of the first 10 pages of Republic. Okay. Is justice a human construct, or is it independent of humans? It depends, again, on how you define justice. For me, I feel like it's sticking to your moral principles without hurting others, right? So finding out what would be the best course of action that could benefit people without hurting them. And using that definition, I'm sort of thinking about animals that fight for mating with a female animal. Like I know that, I don't know if they're bulls, but animals of that type will butt heads, wrestle, and whoever wins, right, gets to mate with the female. And that's just like a structure that's been instinctively going on with animals, and it sort of keeps in line this hierarchy of, okay, these are the laws or rules in the pack or in the group that you have to follow as someone who lost the fight. When you win the fight, based on the laws of this society that the animals have, right, you can do this task, and that's the end of it. We don't have any other quarrels, we don't have any other issues. And again, I think I'd mentioned this in another deep question segment, but the way that we think about animals and their intelligence has nothing to do with the way that we think about intelligence. Because we measure animals based on how smart they are by our standards, right? So, like I mentioned, right, chickens are a classic example of a quote-unquote stupid animal. But I'm sure in the chicken society, they know who the more intelligent chickens are, because they probably have their own standard of living. That, and not really a society, but a communal way that they I don't know. So I think justice can apply to animals, but we can't think about animals as so other from us, because they occupy more of this earth than we do, right? And we developed after what we consider animals. We are also animals. And maybe animals think we're stupid. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like justice can be applicable everywhere, right? Just not in the human sense. And the last question that I'm going to go over today is, some of these are kind of really taboo, I don't want to talk about them. How much does language affect our thinking? Oh. I keep saying, as I mentioned before, but I really did mention before, that the number of times, if you were to just watch for some reason, I don't know why, this would take you the whole day. If you were to watch all of our episodes, and if you were to drink something, right? Water. If you were to make a drinking game out of the number of times we've said, mentioned, or implied sophomore year, you would probably be out cold or very hydrated if you're drinking water. I think my mom always told me this, when you talk with people and you make friends with people, you attract others based on what you say, based on your actions too, right? And in middle school, I had this friend. I don't think she's like this anymore. She's like, now she's doing really well. She's in college as well. She's doing great. I haven't spoken to her after we were only really close for like 1 year. And then in 7th grade, we were close in 6th grade, and then in 7th grade, we just like found our own friends and it was cool. But she cursed a lot. And she looked like the opposite of somebody who would curse. And before that, I never really cursed. I knew what curse words were, but I wasn't around people that cursed. I had such a foul mouth in middle school, and for what? I don't even know for what, Now I curse like to myself, like if I drop something or if maybe I stub my toe or I get a little upset. But in front of like other people, I don't curse unless like I'm super passionate perhaps about a topic, or unless it's like through text and there's something like exciting going on. Yeah, she influenced me a lot to start doing that. Like before, I was the sort of kid who would just never do it. If it's just like, oh, that's mean, or I'm gonna come off as like rude or whatever. And even my other friend, she also started cursing a little bit more because of that. So in terms of our thinking, I sort of started associating certain curse words with like certain situations, because there are some that are worse than others, right? And that kind of changed. But on a more serious note, in high school, I think just throughout, I would always associate myself with certain words, and I would put myself sometimes in a situation where I would have to talk about something like academic. And I considered myself like, I guess, academically smart in middle school, but in high school, you meet like twice as many people, because my high school was like roughly, I guess like twice the size of my middle school, right? And just as there are many smart people in middle school, there were like twice as many in high school. And if I didn't align my conversations with certain words about certain topics, I knew that I couldn't really be in a situation where I could like talk to other people about things. I had to force myself to talk about school and stuff because that's what everyone else was talking about. And I felt like it was my whole life. Like my whole purpose was to do well in school. And really, there are other things to be concerned about. There are other things to be invested in. And I feel like I only had certain friends because we were friends. We had like the same class together or something, and then outside of that, it was like, what do we do, And I think some of my friendships, I admit, have not been as strong because it's been hard to like contact them and communicate with them outside of that setting. So it affects our thinking whether we like it or not, right? When quarantine started, I realized how much I had invested in things that didn't matter. My thinking has become more clear and straightforward. I'm more adamant about what I want. And before, I thought that was like selfish, like, oh, I have to focus on school, I have to do this, I can't be thinking about what I want. And now I've become more positive in my thinking, and I've learned to use self-affirming language more often because I just didn't do that before. And it really does help, even if the self-affirming language is like from yourself. So what started in quarantine has now come to a non-temporary end. Thank you for watching. I really don't know what I said. I really tried to relate social media and philosophy. Like, I tried to transition between them, but I didn't. I did, but it was like really bad. And I had some very poor accounts of the trial and death of Socrates. Spoiler alert, it's in the name. And yeah, next week I don't really know what we're going to be talking about. I don't know when this will be released, but we have some very interesting content in store. And we'll see you next time. This has been Armbridge Podcast. Please check out our website, armbridgepodcast.card.co. And if you would be so kind, please fill out the feedback form. We'd love to hear from you about the things that you may like or even dislike about our podcast and what we could improve in the future. We've gone through 20 episodes. We've gone through so many readjustments. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Instagram at Armbridge Podcast and on Twitter at Armbridge Pod. And we'll see you soon. I don't know when, but we'll see you soon.